Or I'll be there Wednesday.
He wants to get involved.
What makes you think I know?
I got code.
Because last week I took everything out.
I got it written down.
I know.
Bill introduced it.
Yeah, maybe he will. I can't remember what his name is. I just filed it.
Let's see. Didn't,
Oh, okay.
I don't have my minutes.
No, I got them. Where did I write it? Because I wrote it on the end of
Ready to go. They told us.
It's on my
Mr. Mayor Judge. Walk this way, please.
and she wrote down and said, gee, maybe that Dane
Straightened out here.
My Dept.
and I wrote that and said, I'm sorry. I gotta have things that you put on my response last.
I tried kicking her.
So therefore, I'm going to turn it over. And he was
All right, we're going to begin in about
later to come
30 seconds, a minute. You want to turn your phones off or turn it on silent?
I did.
well, aren't we bossy today? Yeah. We bossy, act like you're the mayor or something. Like
All right, good evening, everybody. Today is Committee of the Whole. Today's Monday, March 7th, 2022. Before we get into the Committee of the Whole meeting, we're going to start with our committee reports. And we will kick off the reports with street, sidewalk, and lighting.
Not reports.
Committee meetings.
Thank
Thank
you. Confuse me.
Did you already announce me?
Not yet. You just-
Streets, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angelo.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call to order the Street, Sidewalks, and Lighting Committee. It is Monday, March 7th, 6 p.m. We're all in council chambers. All members are present, which I'm chair, Mrs. Bailey, and Mr. Griffin. All council members are present, and other guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion. We have one piece of legislation requested. It's a letter from Todd Shreve, Service Director, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into professional engineering services contract with OHM Advisors for Engineering and Design Services for the replacement of a 4-inch water main with an 8-inch PVC valve main and complete resurfacing of the road. The cost is not to exceed $57,300. Emergency wording is requested to keep this project moving forward. This was referred to the Streets Committee from Utilities. This is on West Houston, between Worcester Road and Coventry Road, and I believe Mrs. Coburn last week explained the from Utilities explained this. Are there any questions from my committee? No. Any questions from the body? No. This is a big project. Do I have a motion to call for this?
So moved.
Mr. Griffin first, second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'll open it up to miscellaneous. Does anybody have any miscellaneous discussion from the committee? From council? Mr. Greer?
Thank you, Chair. Is there a report on potholes and like how much material we've been using since we've last met in streets?
No, I don't have that information, but I do have some information from, and this is dated from February 22nd until March 2nd. And so that's 14 days. And I received less than a dozen emails from different wards, and I received 2 telephone calls, which the emails were forwarded on to the appropriate council person for that ward, and same with the 2 telephone calls. But I know they're patching, but I did not find out because it's still winter. We're still patching. It's still going through. Any other questions? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Ms. Angeloff. This could be a question for you or the mayor. Is there any kind of grants or state funding where we can hire more street guys and street equipment? Nothing right now?
No.
Is that something we can do through council at all, or get
There's no
more?
federal or state grant funding out there to hire. The feds used to have some programs to hire police and fire. I'm not sure if they took away the police one a number of years ago. I'm not sure if they reinstituted that. But that's through the federal level. That's just for police and fire.
Nothing we can do as council for hire?
I mean, nothing for grant wise.
What would you recommend then? What would you recommend for us to do? Try to get more employees or more newer equipment for the street guys?
We've got existing tests, or we'll be giving tests for various positions throughout the city, including police and fire, but also, street utilities, clerks. We need people to take the test. There was a time when you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people take the test. Chief Berkeley can attest to that. Now, 15, 20. When you do the background check and the interviews and everything, you may end up with 2 or 3 people for 5 positions. So it's and this isn't a unique department. This is that there's a labor shortage. Equipment, we've made some pretty progressive steps forward in purchasing equipment. Even that's a struggle these days, logistics. Do you have any suggestions or ideas on
Following your lead on this one. I mean, a lot of the guys come in and a lot of equipment's outdated, or since the 90s. I mean, some of them need updated big time.
No, I'm somewhat making a joke here, but if it's from the 90s, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
There's some equipment from the 70s.
Wow.
I really hand it to our mechanics.
Yes.
They can really make these things continue to move. Equipment is just so expensive these days. A plow truck is 170, 150, 170. Useful life, it's not that long. We went through this a few years ago with street sweepers. I mean, that was I know more about street sweepers than I ever wanted to know. So just, we reevaluate these things and make sure that routine maintenance is happening so we can add life to the equipment. But, so we really ask the managers and the employees, like, what do you need? So I'm not going to tell them what they need. So what do you need to do your job? And you go out looking at state bid pricing and whatever. If that equipment's been used in other cities and how it's been staying off, things like that. So,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other?
Director Shreve had his hand up.
Todd, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, Councilwoman Angela, I just wanted to kind of update a little bit on the
Sure.
patching of potholes. So,
Okay.
Again, as you all know, weather permitting, street department's trying to get out there. They're running 2 hot boxes. The plants are making hot mix asphalt now, which is a savings and also a longer lasting fix to the patches. The mayor and I received back our road program preliminary cost estimates and stuff today, so we are going to be discussing over the next several weeks on how best to use the road program funds. I mean, the project's starting off at over $9.5 million. We're going to have to whittle it down. So, we looked at every street in town.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to make sure that we didn't leave any rocks unturned, any streets unlooked at. So we're going to do the most that we can with the funds that are available. So we appreciate the patience and just support us while the street department works through it and makes the repairs that they can to make things last.
I do have one question, Todd. With the list that you received from the council people, do you grade those according to, because I grade my own, but that's not necessarily, your grade or the engineer's grade or anything?
That's a good question. So Director Tracy had hired a company, I'm sure you guys all remember, PMG, Pavement Management Group. They went out and actually did a video of every street in town, and they graded every street in town. So they gave an electronic grade that was an unbiased view of every road in town. So we have those grades. So I went ahead and used those grades On top of, say, from a utility standpoint, we also graded the roads. What the utility underneath the road, what kind of condition it's in. We assess storm sewers, we assess sanitary sewers, and we assess the water lines. We don't want to put a brand new road over top of a bad water line that we're going to dig 4 holes in this coming up winter. So everything has been taken into account before we make our final decision on how we're going to pay for this.
Okay.
So did that answer your question?
Yes, yes. I just, just so people think it's not fair, that maybe one ward gets 3 streets and the next ward gets 1 street. It goes by the distance and how much, asphalt, could be small streets and that. So I just wanted.
Some roads, some wards are wider than others, so I mean, you have to look at the width, you have to look at, like I said, utilities. There's several factors that go into this item.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions? Mrs. Fry, go ahead.
I don't have a question, I have a comment that after all of the discussion that we had about potholes, if you noticed, the street department was out in mass. I don't even know how they covered as much as they have covered. But everything that I had turned in that I wanted them to address in the spring, they took care of it. And they even took care of more roads. I don't even know, I really don't know how they got it done, because it was done within a few days and all of the potholes were repaired. Or it's not hot mix yet, right, Todd, or is it?
We have started using some hot mix.
Okay,
They've
well,
got the 2 hot boxes.
whatever they have in them, it's sufficient. I mean, at least it's not these huge, deep holes. So it was a big improvement. And I even reached out to Dan about that.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job.
They are,
They have,
with
yeah.
not having many people. They're doing a great job.
Any other questions? Any other hands up? No? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Bailey, do I have a second?
Second.
Shorter Griffin, and we are adjourned at 6:10 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angeloff. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll call to order the Environmental Health and Social Services Committee. It is Monday, March 7th, and it is 6:10 PM. We're in council chambers. All committee members are present, myself, Mr. Jaber, and Mrs. Angeloff. All other council members are present as well, and then all others are as noted on my sheet. I have one piece of requested legislation. It is from myself. I requested, in conjunction with the Summit DD, for a resolution recognizing March to be Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. There is an attached email from Amy Kelly, the Community Engagement Coordinator at Summit DD. Is there any questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion to call.
I'll second that, ma'am.
Okay. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm told this is not supposed to be on
Yeah,
this
you can skip
section.
it.
Correct, just skip over it, okay. So any miscellaneous discussion?
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry for my voice here, but
You're
forgive
fine.
me. But I do have to say something with health here. This past Saturday, I had to have emergency surgery, which I had up at Barberton Summa Hospital for appendix and some other issues. And I just want to say, I know that some people get a little down on Barberton Hospital and Summa and whatnot, but I want to tell you, from the first person in that ER to the last person to wish me well on the way out, I have never had more exemplary health care in my life. And I told them 75% of it was the best health care I've seen, and the other 25% was the best actual human care that you could ever get. So I just want it to be known that, and it's all the experience when you go, and if you go to a hospital, obviously you're not in the best mood in the world. Nobody goes there for fun. But we are blessed to have such great people at this hospital that from start to finish there was nothing they wouldn't do, and they are stretched thin. You know, I could hear them talk, I interacted with them as best as I could, but I just wanted to make it known that Barberton Hospital really is a gem in this city, and I wouldn't have gone anywhere else, so.
I'll add
thank
to
you.
that too. I worked for SUMA for 8 years, and I worked at all the, Akron City, Barberton, and Barberton has done such a good job of keeping that small town feel to make you feel as though you're not just a number, you're actually cared for. I elected to have both of my kids at Barberton Hospital, so I definitely agree with you. Good. Any other miscellaneous discussion? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move for that.
Okay.
And I will second.
We are adjourned at 6:14 PM.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will call the Planning, Annexation, and Codes meeting to order. It is Monday, March 7th, 2022, 6:14 PM here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which consists of Mrs. Angeloff, Mr. Jaber, Mr. Greer, and myself as chair. All other council members are present as well, and any guests are noted on my sheet. I have no new requests for legislation, nor any pending legislation, so I will open this up for a miscellaneous discussion. Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I spoke to you earlier about the GSA equipment. The other one, zone compliance application got approved. I talked to Mr. Greer about that. I was trying to see if you can work out something with Trevor, to let other council members know about it. Like when I spoke to you earlier today, you're the chair of the planning commission, you had no idea what was going on. I know we shouldn't have, emails about the ones that got denied, but emails of the ones that got approved. It'd be nice to have that kind of communication. I was talking to Ms. Thompson about it. We hear from outside from either employees or, customers or just random people in the city of Barberton that zoning got approved. I think we should know about the ones that got approved. I know the hearsay for the non-ones that didn't get approved, there's a lot of people who apply, but the ones that do get approved, I think we should get some kind of email to all city council members that this got approved. And I think I brought that up a year ago, 2 years ago also. Yes, ma'am.
What do you, no, she has to say,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Oh, yeah, just go ahead.
Thank you. What are you referring to approved? Did they buy the building? Is it sold to them, or is this just the
There's a zoning
zoning?
application for them so they can purchase the property.
But nothing has been done.
No, but it would be nice to get some kind of email.
Nothing has been done. So those people have a zoning okay,
Right.
but they haven't signed any papers and they haven't moved to buy the building.
They
Is
signed
that
intent-
correct?
They signed an intent paper to purchase that property if the zoning was approved. So technically,
That's an intent to buy, but they haven't exchanged money. And what I'm saying is,
the intent to buy is when you purchase, you put down payment on the property, and if it goes through, then the money goes through. If it doesn't go through, you get your money back.
because I'm not sure that I understand that if I get a zoning approval and then I decide not to use that property, hearsay is hearsay. What do we have on paper is what I'm
I got a
asking.
letter in the paper in my mailbox,
For
the zoning approval.
the zoning approval,
Yes.
but the people have not signed a piece of paper saying they're doing anything, right?
No, they did, because they're purchasing the property. That's why they go through zoning, they put an intent, they put
So
down payment
have
deposit.
have you heard from the foundation that they've sold the building to them?
I spoke to this gentleman. He said he was waiting for this to go through. Well, my thing is, the planning chair right here had no idea what was going on.
And until it's a done deal, it's of no consequence to us.
It's an email. It takes 2 seconds.
It's of no consequence to us.
You think differently than I think. Go ahead.
Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. I'm in the dark of this situation here. Is there a zoning change that's needed, or,
No, it's a zoning compliance.
oh, zoning compliance, okay. because if it was a zoning change, it would come
Come through
through
us.
Yeah.
us.
Right.
That's why I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what's going on here.
I just think it'd be nice to get an email, just communication through all council members, especially for the planning chair. That's what she's on.
Okay.
Chair?
Yep, Mr. Greer.
I guess the information did go out. Did everybody get that paper that you have?
No.
No,
Okay.
I didn't.
I think that's
I think
what
it-
he's asking.
I think it might be, is that what's in my mailbox, or?
we have no idea what he's,
Okay, then I.
he got it from the person.
No, I got it from the city, it's in my ward, that's why.
I got you, okay.
Oh, it's in it. Okay.
Is that something that can we maybe, all council members just get it? I know at one point we did advocate for ward reps to get there. Advocate just for all members.
Yeah, I think that would be great if there's any new businesses coming in officially. I think it would be great to let everybody know what's happening. Mr. Hunt, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think to Councilman Greer's point, that this was something that was advocated for in the past, where historically it was just to notify the ward council person. But I'd like to have a conversation offline. Sometimes there are some sensitivities with property dealings, and I think it would be good to have a conversation offline in terms of how we proceed in the future about notifications.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other miscellaneous discussion for planning? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mrs. Angela
I'll second that, ma'am.
and Mr. Jaber. We are adjourned at 6:20.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mr. Heidig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bring to order Finance and Personnel. It's Monday, March 7th, 2022, 6:21, Council Chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as the chair. All council members are present, as well as guests noted. We do have one request for legislation. This was brought to my attention by our council clerk. I am requesting an ordinance authorizing payment to American Legal in the amount of $3,770.17 for the supplement editing and packet pages. Council approval is needed because the invoice is excess over $3,000 dated prior to the purchase order. The American Legal PO for 2021 was closed and emergency wording is requested. This is just the balance of the work that was already done. So we just have to finish paying off what's left. Are there any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, with that, we have a few pending pieces of legislation. The note ordinances, the first one is trickling filter system at the wastewater treatment plant to provide for the issuance and sale not to exceed 100,000 of notes and bonds for reconstruction, improving trickling water system at the municipal wastewater treatment plant, together with all opportunities thereto, and declaring an emergency. Second is the meter reading system replacement project, providing for the issuance and sale not to exceed 300,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying cost for acquiring, installing advanced radio metering systems to be used in connection with the municipal water and sewer and water systems. Then the third is the street improvement project for the issuance sale not to exceed $1,620,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs for improving streets and roads in the city by resurfacing, reconstructing, paving, and making other improvements, together with all necessary related improvements as designated in the plans approved or be approved by council, and all three of these are declaring an emergency. Are there any remarks on any of these three note issues? All right, then moving on to miscellaneous discussion. And Director Flaker, care to indulge us? The floor is yours.
All right, starting with the health insurance fund. For the month of February, the revenues were $393,000, expenditures 400, almost 400, a little over 400,000. So that puts us net year to date at about $7,670. Moving on to the income tax analysis. February 2022, we had an estimate of $956,000. Our actuals came in at $1,035,000. That put us year to date ahead of our estimate by about $73,000. We did another transfer of $1 million from the income tax fund to the general fund. Now that the budget is approved, I will start giving in the council report how much more we have to transfer to the various funds. That way you guys are aware of how much more we have to transfer throughout the year. Moving on to the statement of cash receipts and disbursements, there's a few funds in the negative. First one's the FEMA fund. As I said before, that's for the stormwater mitigation projects over on 15th, 14th, and Arthur. Once we expend the money, the federal government will reimburse us for it. CDBG, that's the HUD program, same thing. Once we spend the money, the federal government will reimburse us for it. Those are the only two funds in the negative currently. Moving on to the last 3 months of activity, the general fund has stayed about the same from this last month to this month. Special revenue funds has stayed about the same. Enterprise funds, you'll notice, went up a little bit. What's driving that is, you'll notice the encumbrances outstanding went down, but also we received a payment from the city of Norton for the debt service for Nash Heights. They only had to pay the first half, but their clerk made a mistake and paid us for the full year. So that's boosting the fund up a little bit right now. All other funds, you'll notice, went up by about $300,000. Next month when you see that number will be low. And when I say low, it will probably be in the negatives. Just for the main fact, we did the PO for the healthcare premiums through Summit County for the full year. So that number will drop come next month. And then comparing February 21 to February 22, you'll notice that the general fund went down about $2.6 million. A lot of that has to deal with just the year-to-date disbursements. This year we've spent $1.3 million more than last year. And if you look at the encumbrances outstanding, we have almost $650,000 more encumbrances than last year at this time. So those are two big driving factors of why that unencumbered cash balance is lower than last year. Special revenue funds is up by about almost $11 million. $800 million of that is, $8 million of that is from the American Rescue Plan. Enterprise funds is up by about $2 million. A lot of that has to deal with, beginning of 21, we were still coming out of COVID and being able to collect on a lot of the water bills. So throughout this past year, we collected on those water bills. Not only that, if you look, the encumbrances outstanding is also down by quite a bit, by almost $1 million. Then all other funds is stayed about the same, and that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for the Director? President Greer.
Thanks, Chair. The Norton mistake, are they planning on taking half of that back? That's a pretty big...
No, because I'll bill them again come June, July, when we make because OWDA and OPWC, we pay twice a year. Once in January, end of December, beginning of January, then again in June and July, we'll pay them. So instead of me billing them in July for the second half, I'll just send them a letter saying that they're paid in full for the year. So no, they're not planning on taking it back. They said just hold on to it and just give us credit for the second half payment.
Just making sure, like, it wasn't something that their council had to pass and they didn't pass it, and okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? right, do I have a motion to call for the acceptance?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll
Second?
second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have any other miscellaneous discussion from the committee? From the body? From the gallery? Well, seeing none, I do have one. This kind of goes in lockstep with Councilor Angeloff's street committee. As Councilor Jaber can attest with gas prices, I do want to thank the council for passing the budget in a timely manner and being able to get hot mix that they're able to do so quickly to help with the holes. I know, suspending on the second reading was not an opportune thing, but we had to take advantage when we could to lock in anything we could. So I do want to thank the council for that. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes the committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take a short 5-minute break and come back for the committee of the whole.
I'm breathing too, Dan. I'm breathing.
Oh, yeah. But you didn't know it when they put it in.
No, I was already
Right,
out.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You just know the after effects of it.
And I was thinking yesterday, no, it's just the rawness still working its way
I
out.
know. Well, I don't think you can stand it.
Curtis
They put it in
Stemple.
With you conscious.
Yeah, he's right across, right next door to, he's from Crystal Clinic, and he has a Barberton office. He's very young, 40-some years old. He's, I just love him.
I have they don't hear it enough.
I know.
Get a shot first. Get a cortisone shot. Let him x-ray it, and he'll let you, he's very honest. If he doesn't want to do it, he won't do it. Or if he feels that, you can maybe wait, couple. Yeah, he's Curtis Stemple.
It's hard.
He did both of mine, and I had robotic surgery, so that was, yeah.
We were leaving out the main entrance. The girl at the front desk, she wished me well, and I turned around and
It's the worst thing ever. I went through 3 years of hell. Oh, I know.
I'm done.
Yeah, I was in there last June when I had the pneumonia. I had no problem. No problem.
And they had respect.
No, I understood. And you wouldn't have went to this one. You wouldn't have went there just for a hookup. No. With 911 took you?
No, my parents took my we had ours, she couldn't go until her dad came back. Yeah, she met us up.
That's why I tested you. It's 7:30 because Luke is up at 7:30 because play practice and yoga. And then they're like, well, yeah. They have get our presidents
For your report, we just say we met tonight. You called for resolution to do this. That's all you have to say. You just have to say, because it's a new piece, you have to say we called for this piece of legislation. That's all you got to do. No, we called for it.
Thank you.
What's that?
I called dispatch, the first question I asked, towards Morgan flooding. Yeah. Like, when you call street department. You understand what that paper?
No, I got it.
I'm not trying to be, negative, but it's be nice to have communication.
Or if we do get it,
Keep it confidential too, until it's
said that.
confidential.
I'm glad. I'm glad I'm here. Yeah.
Things I'm doing out there. She's for sure she.
I got more water in my backpack, but that's downhill. I don't think
I can't believe it.
Yes.
I can't either. That's the biggest thing in my lifetime. I've never seen it. I've been out there over 16 years. Never happened.
You know what's so interesting, and I've heard my Justin about this too, how like when we have committees on the same evening that we have.
Yeah. Well, there's people that did.
Yes, because it's then throwing me off of I don't know even how to say it, because I'm like, they're just
That thing that knows, that thing that knows, that breathing too.
So then you're gonna listen to me.
Because yesterday I was talking fine, but it's just like the more I talk, the more it's like.
Well, all my friends, they're like, what are you doing? Well, because I had that sign. I was like, they won't call, text.
And then you.
I'm not losing my voice.
Okay.
I got a big meeting tomorrow.
Tell me something, because what are they building in Norton? I keep forgetting, in Norton on Barber Road. What's that big clearing down there?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Oh, that's on Barber Road?
Where they got the big earth movers?
Yeah.
They're working hard on that one.
I know.
I was supposed to go down and get drone footage. I'm probably not able to.
Oh, okay.
Forget, it's only a standalone building, the rest of it all gravel.
That's gonna be big.
Now, the building's gonna be big.
The building, that's gonna be the.
No, because all you have to say is you call. Yep, because, because in the committee of the whole, you have to call for all new legislation. So you don't have to say that, because if it didn't make it out, you wouldn't have to say that. If it passes, you have
And
to.
I'm trying to change it.
The letter of the law minimum is good for the city. Barberton Tree Service. Probably use door.
Yeah, see, like I have to call for this one and just call for each.
Oh my God, the stuff like that.
But see, on the finance one, I still have to call for the note ones because because we meet every week. So I didn't call for these at the committee of the whole.
Yeah, you can call, you can give a report.
So I just say I called for this and these three notes, and that's it. But that's only because it's every week. So if it was every other week, it would only be one time.
I know, that's what I said, just clean, it's all we want.
Oh, that just, they're just cleaning up.
All right, we're going to begin in about a minute. You nervous?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you have the protective glass.
Yeah. Okay.
Watch out for the
I bet he got it from you guys. You got that right.
All right, please ensure your phones are on silent or off. Today is Monday, March 7th, 2022. Today is a committee of the whole meeting. I call this meeting to order. It is 6:37 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Troop 101.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. No pressure, right? You only got the mayor and everybody in here. Citizens addressing council.
There.
There are none.
Thank you, Mrs. Angeloff. Committee reports. We are going to kick off committee reports with Mrs. Angeloff of Streets, Sidewalk, and Lighting.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street Sidewalks and Lighting met this evening at 6 p.m. All members of committee were present, all council members were present, and others as noted on my sheet. We had one piece of legislation requested, a letter from Todd Shreve, Service Director, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a professional engineering services contract with OHM Advisors for engineering and design services for the replacement of a 4-inch water main with an 8-inch PVC main and complete resurfacing of the road. This cost is not to exceed $57,300. Emergency wording is requested to keep this project moving forward. This was referred to the streets from utilities. This is on West Houston between Worcester Road and Coventry Road. Committee has unanimously brought that out to council, and we'll vote on that next week. And miscellaneous discussion about grants, hiring employees, federal grants. That's something they just don't do. We do have a labor's test, the mayor said, coming up. One plow truck costs $170,000. Patching, they're patching every single day. Our hats go off to the mechanics, keeping the equipment going, and our workers keep patching every single day, and we were adjourned at 6:10 p.m. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Next up, Mrs. Thompson with Planning, Annexation, and Codes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes met this evening at 6:14 p.m. All members were present, as well as all council members, and we had no new requests for legislation nor any pending legislation. We did have some discussion about communications regarding new businesses coming into the city, so that's something we're going to work on with the planning department. And we adjourned at 6:20. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Next up, Ms. Colburn with City Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met February 28th in council chambers. All members were present and others as noted. We had one new request for legislation that was referred to streets. Mrs. Angeloff just went over that. We have 3 pending legislations that we will be voting on next week. That is ordinance number 21, 2022, to enter into a contract with CT Consultants for no feasible alternative study, and ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into professional engineering services contract with CT Consultants to prepare a no feasible alternative NFA study for secondary treatment bypass at the wastewater treatment plant and declaring an emergency. The second one is ordinance 23, 2022. This ordinance is appropriation water fund, F-U-N-D-A-N. Ordinance appropriating $35,000 from the unappropriated item of the water fund to the capital budget of the water fund for the purchase of a Ford truck for the use in the daily operations at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency. The third ordinance is ordinance number 24, 2022, and this is appropriating the appropriation Bentwood Package Plant Elimination Project. An ordinance appropriating $50,000 from the unappropriated item of the Norton Sanitary Sewer Construction Fund to the capital budget of the Norton Sewer Construction Fund and declaring it emergency. We had no other miscellaneous discussion, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Colburn. Next up, Mrs. Fry with Public Welfare and Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Welfare and Safety Committee met last week, Monday, February 28th. All members of the committee were present, as well as all council members and guests as noted on my agenda sheet. We voted on the prosecutorial contracts with Greene and New Franklin last week, and also the administrative contract with Norton. We do not provide the prosecutors for the city of Norton. We do for New Franklin and Greene. We also got a letter from Chief Persley in regard to the purchase of an ambulance that has COVID fighting equipment in the back of it. And we passed that out of committee, and we'll be voting on that probably next week. That is all that we had in our meeting, and with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Frey. Next up, Mr. Griffin with Rules, Marketing, and Development.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing and Development has nothing to report, sir. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Mrs. Bailey with Environmental Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Environmental Health and Social Services Committee met tonight at 6:10 PM in council chambers. All members were present. All others were noted on my sheet. I brought a request in conjunction with the Summit DD for a resolution recognizing March to be Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. There was attached email from Amy Kelly, who is the Community Engagement Coordinator for Summit DD. We called for the requested legislation to be brought to the floor. And then also there was miscellaneous discussion regarding Barberton Hospital. And we were adjourned at 6:14 PM.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Next up, Mr. Jaber with City Properties, Parks, and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties and Park Recreation met February 28, 2022 at 6:07 PM. Council chambers, all council members were present, and also guests were noted. We had just one draft, resolution 22-2022, was tile accommodation for Mrs. Dorothy Somerville, and that passed that day. And miscellaneous discussion, we were asked about the basketball courts, and the mayor said no updates yet, they're still working on with that. And also asked about the skate park, and still no updates on that. And we adjourned at 6:09. That passed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Last but not least, Mr. Heidick with Finance and Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel met for the past 2 weeks, February 28th and March 7th, oddly enough at 6:21 each time. Everybody was present from the committee and council. Combined, there were 4 pieces of legislation called. The first 3 were note ordinances, the first one being trickling filter system at the wastewater treatment plant to provide the issuance and sale not to exceed 100,000 of notes. The second was for meter reading system replacement, providing for the issuance and sale not to exceed $300,000 of notes. And the third was street improvement project, providing the issuance and sale not to exceed $1,620,000 of notes. And tonight, we called for a ordinance to authorize payment to American Legal in the amount of $3,770.17 for the supplement editing and packet pages. We had to finish off the balance that was closed in 2021. We also had the finance report presented and called for acceptance. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Next up, Mayor's Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to thank Troop 101 for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Just another shining example of some of the great things that are going on in our communities. Thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank everyone who attended my open office hours this past weekend. Out of 26,000 residents, having 5 residents attend with questions, I guess everything must be running pretty smoothly in town. But before the social media world starts pounding away on their keyboards to let me know that that's incorrect, let me tell you about some of the complaints. Some of the complaints and questions surrounding property maintenance. And we get a lot of those this time of year because the snow is melted, the sidewalks are dirty with grime and dirt from the snow plows pushing everything up. People haven't had a real opportunity to kind of clean up their properties. There could be leaves out, things like that. So we tend to get those types of complaints or questions at this time of year, and we're starting to work on those as well. So One thing I found interesting, all 5 attendees had the same 2 complaints. One, they complained about the negativity on social media about the community, kind of, be a part of the solution, not the problem. But also, they were complaining that there's lack of people. All this complaining on social media, but only 5 people showing up at open office hours. So, wanted to point that out because we do everything we can to be transparent, to have our doors open. Met with a young man just before council who had some questions. He's running for political office. So if people have questions or comments, ideas, we're here. So, backing up a little bit to Councilman Jaber's comment, the city is working with the school system to try to create programs or at least generate interest in pathways and knowledge of city positions. You may drive by the wastewater treatment plant, you have no idea what goes on there, what type of jobs are there. So kind of educating the school kids on what kind of positions are open at the city and what's the pathway to get there. What do you need? Is it a certain type of license? Do you have to be a certain age? Those types of things. So hopefully that benefits us moving forward with some of the kids. So. Also want to point out, earlier today, I attended the Summit County Board of Health Annual Advisory Committee. They did appoint me secretary for that board. So getting ready to jump into that position and getting more information that could benefit the community. So more updates coming soon on that. As mentioned earlier with the streets, they continue to be worked on. It is a great benefit when the asphalt plants do open up. So our crews were out there filling the holes. As Mr. Shreve mentioned, we did compile a list. We get a list of streets for the paving program from council. We have a rating system. We compile streets as well, put them in the list. If people email us or comment that, hey, get my street on the list, we add it to there. So, we typically do 13 to maybe 20 streets or sections of streets each year. This list that we sent out for estimates was about 75. So that came back about $9.1 million. Now it's our job to kind of whittle that down to fit in our budget of about $1.5 million. So we do take into account the rating system that's applied. We do take into account what's going on and try to research what's going on with the infrastructure underneath the road. So as Mr. Shreve said, let's work on that first. We do take into account what's going on in and around the street too. So if we know that construction's happening, we're not going to repave the road just to have concrete trucks and construction vehicles go down the road and tear it up. So we take all that stuff into account before we go out to bid. And as we have in the past, we'll have a set number of streets and then we'll have an alternate list. So if we come in under budget, we can pick directly from this alternate list as we did the last few years. I did notice, didn't have a lot of time to dive into it, but it appears that the estimates are probably $20,000 to $30,000 more than previous years. So we see what's going on throughout the world, and that does impact us here in Barberton. So more on that as we continue to meet and whittle down that list. With the recent storms, so far we've had about 1.5 inches of rain here in Barberton. We take measurement in several places throughout town. Eastern Road was closed but is now open. Barber Road has been closed recently due to high water. There's a flood advisory. I'm not sure if it's been updated, but it was supposed to expire at 6 o'clock this evening, so I'm not sure if they extended that or not. But this is a perfect example, because Barber Road was just closed not too long ago, of showing how we can absorb and deal with the water that falls on Barberton. It's the water that comes through the tributaries in town that really taxes our system. You always have street ponding and ponding in yards and things of that nature. But when we start getting that water from those tributaries, and our watershed goes all the way over into Medina County, when that comes this way, it really taxes our system. So we're trying to account for that as well as we move through infrastructure projects as well. Change for Change is next week on the 16th at the VFW. I've been working with the VFW. They are putting together a Medal of Honor memorial, so the funding will go to that. It'll bear the name of Sergeant Woodford, who is the only recipient of that honor from the city of Barberton. So if there are others in the future, they will be placed on that as well. So Been working with them for over a year on that, and very excited to see this continue to progress. Lastly, just want to introduce Mr. Mike Tiadecki, new employee with the city of Barberton. This is starting the second week, and he's excited to be here. He's still here.
Still here.
So happy to have him on board, and definitely going to help us with a lot of projects that we've got going on. You know, as you guys reported through your reports here, you know, there's a lot of things starting to happen. So echoing the same words or feelings that Councilperson Heidi did. Thank you for passing the budget after 2 readings. The volatility and the fluctuation of prices is so great these days that, you know, vendors aren't keeping their prices. It's hard to find, you know, that little widget that you need. And if you can get it this year, you're lucky. So the sooner we can start ordering things and getting things under wraps, the better. So appreciate that as well. So, Mr. President, that is all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to report. Is there anything from council members? Department heads? Well, seeing none, we will adjourn this meeting at 6:54 PM.
I know, before 7. No arguments.